Good day, colleagues. Apelele or Lebogang, can you please just indicate to me, can you see if there are still some people in the waiting room? Because a lot more people has registered. So I don't know whether we should just wait a minute or two, or Erna, if you can hear me, maybe we should start with our branch activities quickly. Then as the people join, they can just be in the actual meeting with our speaker. So Erna, can you just indicate to me if it will be fine if we can continue?
Matilda, yes, I think it will be fine. Then we can start. They can join as they come in. From my side, it's okay if you want to start with the business part.
Thank you, Erna. In the meantime, I would like to welcome everyone who has logged in already. We as LISLIG Free State will then quickly have our branch meeting. It will be very short, and then we will continue with the presentation. Apelele, you will just make sure that Erna do get the list of all the attendees. Erna, do you have any apologies for our meeting?
I have apology from Hesma, Van Tonder, and Rian Leroux.
Thank you so much. The two issues on our items on our agenda is the minutes of the 21st of July 2022 and the minutes of 16 February 2023. All LISLIG members of the Free State did receive the minutes. Therefore, I'm asking and I'm taking it as you have read the minutes. Can I just get a proposer for the minutes of the 21st of July 2022, please? Elma, I cannot hear you, but I assume the fact that you did unmute yourself, you want to propose.
Yes, thank you, Matilda.
Thank you so much, Elma. Can I get a seconder for the minutes of the 16th of February? Do we have any LISLIG people? Tobias, I see you are there. Erna, Rhonda. Rhonda, I know you can't speak, but if you would like to, Rhonda, yes. Okay, thank you, Rhonda. Rhonda is then the seconder for the minutes of the 16th of February. Then the next, now I'm confused, for the 21st of July 2022. Then the next item is the minutes of 16th February. It is that nice visit we had at OFM studio, radio OFM studio here in Bloemfontein. If I can please have a proposer and a seconder for approving the minutes of 16 February 2023.
It's fine with me.
Thank you, Elma. Can I just have a seconder for this minutes as well?
Rhonda say yes.
Thank you, Rhonda. That then concludes our business of the LISLIG Free State branch. Thank you for your participation, LISLIG Free State members. Once again, I would like to welcome each and everyone who has registered for our meeting. I see there are colleagues from all over the country. It is very nice having you all on our group, and I trust that you will find it worth your while to listen to our speaker. Erna, I'm then handing over to you to please introduce Ms. Marina Gryvenstein from the Mangaung Library Services, who will then deal with the topic of the day, legal deposit. Thank you so much, Erna and Marina.
Thank you, Matilda. I have the speaker here with me in my office, so we are using the same computer at the moment. The information that Marina sent to me, she wrote matric in 1988. Then she obtained her B Bubble at UFS in 1992. She started her career in 1993 at the Bloemfontein municipality as a typist, and then she moved in 1997 as assistant librarian to the legal deposit serials section. In March 2000, she was promoted to librarian and head of the legal deposit serials section. In 2008, she was transferred as librarian to acquisitions section, where she is still working. However, in 2022, after the death of the librarian of the legal deposit serials section, she was transferred back to this section on a part-time basis. So with this short background, Marina, thank you very much for availing yourself to be with us for today and tell us a little bit more of your work. I'm just quickly going to switch on the camera so that all can see Marina, but then I'm going to switch off just to save some, what do you call it, data. Okay, so Marina, if you can just move in here.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to present the legal deposit part of the Legal Deposit Act and some information that I can give to you.
Thank you, Marina. Then over to you.
Thanks, Anna, for introducing me. I just went to look for some background around legal deposit, and on the internet, I find a reference that from 1537, a legal deposit was initiated by the Ordinance of Montpellier. I'm sorry, I'm not French, so I don't know how to pronounce that, where they say that a copy of each published book in France must be delivered to the King's Library for conservation. During the following centuries, they started to use the legal deposit as a kind of censorship for the people, and then during the French Revolution, the people say no, the legal deposit then violates their freedom of speech, so they stop using the legal deposit as a censorship during the French Revolution. Then the other information that I got is that legal deposit in United Kingdom can be traced back to an agreement with Stationers' Company in 1610, and then later the Press Licensing Act in 1662. Then the Press Licensing Act in 1662 is where the Bodleian Library in England was entitled to receive the free copy, free of charge, of all books printed in England. In 1842, the Legal Deposit Act, I almost can say, started in South Africa with the British Copyright Act, that was applicable to the entire British Empire, where at that stage South Africa was also falling under. And then further legislation is that the Copyright Act of 1965 and then the Legal Deposit Act of 1982 also put in further legislation leading up to the Legal Deposit Act of 54 of 1997. At this stage, we are using basically the Legal Deposit Act 57 of 1997, which assists us with the preservation of publications, either electronically, CD, or then the printed copies. The Legal Deposit Act also guides us as legal deposit libraries what we must receive, access, retain, and preserve everything in South Africa, published in South Africa. And we must keep a catalog or an inventory of what publications we received, and we must be able to make it accessible to the public free of charge. The National Library is the one legal deposit library that's compiling a national bibliographic of all things published in South Africa. They are also supposed to keep statistics of documents that is applied in terms of the Legal Deposit Act. for current as well as future use. And I can just mention that the National Library is also assisting with the allocation of ISBN for publications that's going to be published. Another thing that I can say is the Legal Deposit Act also gave us guidance in regard to publication that must be delivered. The one thing that the Act indicates, if there's 99 publications or less, then it must be delivered to the National Library of South Africa. It doesn't have to be delivered to some of the other legal deposit libraries like us in Mangaung. And then also if there's a cost involved, if a publication to be published costs a lot of money, then they can ask, the publisher can ask exemption from the Legal Deposit Committee to be able to exempt that specific title with the indication that it may cost a lot and they can't produce it free of charge for all the legal deposit libraries. But at least the National Library of South Africa must receive then one copy of that publication. There are, I'm going to say when I was working there, there was 5 legal deposit libraries, but they in the meantime also joined to other libraries that is seen as legal deposit libraries. The 5 legal deposit libraries is the National Library of South Africa, the Cape Town campus, the National Library of South Africa, the Pretoria campus, then us here in Bloemfontein, Mangaung Library Services, Mzunduzi Municipality in Pietermaritzburg, the Betty Head Library is also a legal deposit library, and the Library of Parliament is then the 5th one. The 2 that came in afterwards is the South African Library for the Blind, as well as then the National Film, Video and Sound Archive. That is also joined, so in the end there's 7 legal deposit libraries. With the legal deposit libraries, we also get legal deposit depositories, if I can, of OPDs. Now, OPD is like the legal deposit libraries that must receive official publications published in South Africa from a public entity, and it must be delivered free of charge to them. A public entity is, it's mostly if they are talking about a public entity, they are talking about the government printing works or is something connected with the government. Official publications offhand is like the government gazette we are getting, the provincial gazette, or any annual reports from government departments that are being published, or sometimes they've got, we call it RPs of PRs that they are publishing. The Act also then stipulates that the OPD shall be established in a library or a community center that is easily accessible to the public. And OPD must be able to make available information of national importance. That way it's mostly connected with the government, and it must be available to all citizens of South Africa and not only main metropolitan areas. That's why they created or established OPDs. It's not a complete legal deposit library, but it is connected to the legal deposit with government gazettes and publications of the government that must be deposited with them. In the Act, they listed the following library depositories: the Constitutional Court Library, the RJR Masea Public Library in Witshoek, the Northwest Provincial Library Services, and then the Mpumalanga Provincial Library Service that indicated must be OPDs to make information available. The Legal Deposit Committee, the compilation of the Legal Deposit Committee is compiled by different institutions or representatives. At the, I've said there's 7 legal deposit libraries, but there's only 6 legal deposit library heads that's at the Legal Deposit Committee, because the National Library of South Africa, the Cape Town and Pretoria campus are seen as one representative. Then they've also got representatives then from the government printing works, the OPDs, PASA, it's people from the published industry, and then other parties like UNISA, the Office of the Chief Justice, LISLIG, if I pronounce it correctly, is from Library Information Sector, the National School of Government, and then the Secretariat from the Departments of Arts and Culture. Sorry for that one. Then the responsibility of a legal opposite committee is they's like the middleman. We must give feedback to the minister and then feedback to the legal opposite libraries. The legal opposite committee must advise the Minister of Arts and Culture on matters dealing with the Legal Opposite Act. They must coordinate tasks carried out by the various legal opposite libraries in respect to the Act. They must advise the legal opposite libraries matters that deals with the Act. And if necessary, and if there's a request, they must establish subcommittees or working groups that can look into different aspects of the Legal Opposite Act and what the influence is on the legal opposite libraries or the working of the legal opposite libraries. And then they must report back to Parliament on the activities and the financial affairs of the legal opposite libraries. And the reporting is in accordance to the provisions of the Public Entities Act 93 of 1992. When to deposit, some people will ask, but when must I deposit the books to the legal opposite libraries? In the Act, it stipulates it must be done within 14 days. But in our case, it doesn't really happen in that way. We as Mangaung Library Services, if we do not receive any publication, we will start looking at catalogs, if we can find catalogs. If the public comes in and they ask for a book and say they want the 2nd or the 3rd edition, and we don't have it, we will go and see what information we can get. Then we will get the information. We've got book selection lists from our provincial library services that we use. So anything that we can use, we will use to make sure that we get all the public books or newspapers published in South Africa. We also sometimes are going like to CNA or exclusive books and check on the shelves what books are they that they've issued. So we can see, did we receive those books or did we not receive those books? As an example, I can just mention, so 2 weeks ago in this game, when I was in this game, I saw on the shelf the air fryer. It's a new magazine, the air fryer. And immediately we took the information, we wrote to the publisher and we received, as of yesterday, the air fryer, as well as our English, as well as the Afrikaans copy of the air fryer. So that's the way we are keeping up to date with publications not sent to us or sent later, but then we will remind the publisher we know about this publication and we will send out reminders to tell them they must send it for us. With the reminders, in Mangaung's case, we've got 2 sections, the monograph sections and the serial sections. In the monograph sections, we've got a person who's writing reminders. If we give her the information, she will write reminders and say to the publishers, it's mostly books that we need those books. And in the serial section with the newspapers and magazines, we've also got a person allocated to write the reminders. If we can see we haven't received, say it's a daily newspaper, we've received the 1st but not the 3rd, then we will write for the 2nd to get the information. I will go a bit more into the reminders a bit later on. Then there's also, if they do not comply with the Legal Opposite Act, there's a few ways that we can, I don't want to say force, but the steps that we can take to see if we can get them to send us the publications. And this is also within with this working of the Legal Opposite Committee that we must do this. In our case, we've got 3 reminders that we must write to the publisher. If they do not respond, then we've got a legal opposite coordinator where we can send the information to on a quarterly basis and say we've got a problem with this publisher of this publication. He will then contact either the publisher or he will take the information to the legal opposite committee to indicate we've got a problem with a specific publication or with a specific publisher. And then also in the Act, if they still do not comply, there is a penalty fee that can be allocated but it must not exceed 20,000 rand. So there is different ways that we can make sure that they do comply with sending us books or publications. Also with the legal opposite committee, we must give feedback from the libraries on a quarterly basis to the legal opposite coordinator, and then he will do follow-ups and then gives feedback to the legal opposite committee. Now a bit more of the Mangaung Library Services. As indicated, we are one of the legal opposite libraries, and usually our way of saying, if somebody asks about what is legal opposite, we just say everything published in South Africa must be delivered to one of the legal opposite libraries to keep and preserve for future use, for current and future use. With that, we've got a collection of Africana. Now, Africana is not really published in South Africa. It's books published overseas, but in our case, published overseas, but the information is about the history of South Africa. Then we also try to keep those books as part of our legal opposite collection, in our Africana collection. Okay, as previously said, we've got a monograph section and a serial section. In the monograph section, I usually work with books published once or first or second editions, official publications, loose leaves, and then publications or annual reports from public entities. In our serial section, we've divided it into the newspapers. We receive the newspapers, magazines, newsletters. Newsletters, it can be from anyone, it can be from a church, anyone who gives it to us. Annual reports, companies, usually the companies, we at the monographs, it's from public entities. And then any other publication that is published more than once a year, we will receive in the serials department. For example, the Liasa,
Also in touch.
yeah, Liasa in touch, and then the other one,
The official.
the official
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
we also received that and then kept it with us. Our basic duty is to preserve. So we've got basements in different storage places that we are preserving the publications. We've got two basements in our main library, the Adelaide Tambo Library. Then we've got 2 floors at our provincial library services, the provincial library building, where we preserve publications. And we've also got a storage area in our city hall, where we preserve some of our publications. As the Act indicates that the publications must be available for public access. So when we catalog our publications, mostly the books are cataloged and classified, and the newspapers and magazines we only catalog. So when we catalog the books, and we must decide where we're going to send them. Adelaide, the stories at Adelaide are the ones that are used a lot, as we call it, the books that is current information that the people would like, school books or those kind of things. It goes to Adelaide. And then the newspapers is like the national newspapers. We call it national newspapers, like the Volksblad, when it was still published, Report, Sowetan, Burger, Beeld, those publications. And then magazines is like your Huisgenoot, your Saris, that we keep close to us. So if somebody comes in and they want the newest Sari, we can go and fetch it for them and they can use it. Our basements at the provincial library is also, we call it running magazines or newspapers. It's those newspapers not used a lot. It's say somebody will come in once a year and they need to see those newspapers, magazine or books. We've still also got books that side. And then in our stores at the city hall, it's mostly our seized publications. It's publications not published anymore, but we still must keep them so that we're putting them in that storage space. if you need to see or would like to see a publication, as we must give them for you, you must look at them. You can go to our reference section and they will get the book for you. If it's at the outside storage spaces, it will take a day or two for them to fetch it for you to read, and you have to use it in the reference section. We are not allowed to give it out, so it must be used in our reference section. That's also for serials, newspapers. If it's not a public one, it's only a legal deposit one we've got, you must use it in the reference section. Okay, we storage and space. I think everyone will indicate that this problem with storage or space that we must have for these publications. Just to mention, like the Huisgenoot started in 1916, but our holding starts in 1917. And I can almost say we've got a complete set of the Huisgenoot, but it takes a lot of space for us to keep it. The Volksblad is like the same one. The Volksblad, under the name Volksblad, starts in 1916, but then we've got the Het Western, the previous name of the Volksblad that started in the 1900s that we're also keeping at our stores this side. So it's a lot of space that we need to have to keep everything. Because of the space problem that we are experiencing with everything that is published, we as Mangahoen concentrate on the Free State and Northern Cape publications, and then the national publications, the magazines and newspapers, die Beeld, the Burger, the Huisgenoot, but mostly the Free State and Northern Cape publications. If we would like to say we've got a newspaper, I always say, like there in Timbuktu, there's a small newspaper, they say the local newspaper. If it's outside our region and we've got a space problem, we can ask for exemption, but it must be done with the Legal Deposit Committee's approval. We can make a list and we can ask them and say, this is our problem, and if they approve it or not. But exemption in this case is only for serials, for newspapers and magazines, it's not for books. The books, if it's an exemption, it's only if the book is, if it's very costly, that they can ask exemption for books for other libraries, but the National Library must still receive the copies. If we ask exemption for, say, a very small newspaper in the northern KwaZulu-Natal, it's not part of our region, then the KwaZulu-Natal, the Mzunduzi Library can still then keep that local newspaper because it falls in their region. Something that I can mention is that after COVID or during COVID, I don't know how to put it, a lot of publications ceased to exist or they didn't have money to publish anymore. So we've got, at this stage, we don't receive a lot of publications because of those publications that ceased to exist. But suddenly, after, say, from last year, we will see that publications is they are starting to send publications again. So now we must look at what was received, say, in 2020 and what we receive now. We've got a gap, then we must find out if that gap is, if they can still provide us with the publications. Otherwise, our holdings will just update and say from that date to that date, there isn't even anything published, but it's starting again on a certain day. We especially have got problems in, I want to say, in Bloemfontein, where there's a lot of small newspapers. Just suddenly, if you walk in the street, there's a newspaper. If you go to, say, a shop outside, they will say there's a newspaper. But after 3 months, you can't find that newspaper anymore. So they just stop publishing the newspaper. But still with us, we take everything, and even if it's a one copy of a certain newspaper, we still keep it, we still catalog it on the system, and we still store it, whatever we've got, because it's Free State or Northern Cape. With the preservation, we are also doing binding. But we can't bind everything. So we are concentrating first on Bloemfontein publications or Free State publications. Then we will look at national publications, especially the big newspapers like the Beeld de Burger, and then the national magazines. And then if there is money left, then we will do the other binding of the other publications of, say, Pretoria or Cape Town or places of that we still receive, then we will bind those. But we are concentrating Free State, Northern Cape or national newspapers. Then some of our collections, I've mentioned the Afrikaner collection that we've got, that is books published outside South Africa, but it's information about South Africa, the history that we've got. We've got Vrystasia, we call it Vrystasia. That's also things that's specifically on Bloemfontein, on Free State. Then we mention it as a note, Vrystasia. So if somebody wants something on Free State, we can indicate to them we've got that. And then I can say, we've got the old, I almost want to say old collection. We've got a friend of the Free State and Bloemfontein Gazette that started in 1850. And then we've got the friend. I don't know if you remember the friend, as it starts in 1890s. Our holding starts in 1896. It's very old newspapers, it's very brittle newspapers. So we've got microfilm that you can use for those newspapers. We only allow very serious researchers, if they request, they want the hard copy, then the serious researchers, we will say, okay, we will make a place for you to sit and you can use the hard copy, but mostly they check the microfilm, and only after the microfilm they will ask certain copies, and we allow them then to see the newspapers. But because it's very brittle, we don't let anybody make use of them. At this stage, we are also working with Sabinet. They started working with us to ask some publications that's not falling under the copyright anymore. And they requested the Drum as one of the newspapers, and they scanned the older editions. I think it's about 10 years, I'm not sure, that they've scanned, and they are making it available via Sabinet for the public then to use. They are still looking for older publications, so we are going in the archives to see if we can get some old publications. Then they will scan it and put it on the system at Sabinet. And then lastly, I can just say, not all of our collection is available on our OPAC. We've still got a lot of our card catalogs, a lot of publications that's in a card catalog, but we are calling it recats. So we are doing the card catalog as we work with, say, one publication. We are doing the other titles or editions of that specific publication. We are putting the back orders also on the computer. Yes, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. I just see it's a lot more than we ever realized. We would like now to give time for people to ask Marina any questions. I see here is a question from, let me just see, Nslapo. During the pandemic, many journals went online or electronic formats. Do you also keep those?
If it's online or electronically and it's hard copy, we keep the hard copy. But otherwise, the National Library of South Africa is keeping mostly the online or electronic format copies of the publication.
Thank you. Is this answer for you, Nslapo? Okay. Matilda? I see your hand is raised.
Thank you, Arno. Marina, I just want to find out, you have mentioned that the committee is now talking to the Minister of Arts, arts and culture. Does the different MECs from the provinces also from time to time tap into this committee? And my question is actually, do the MECs of the different provinces know about legal deposit and maybe whisper into the ears of their colleagues that they do have responsibilities as to they have to, all the documents published in the different departments needs to be given to legal deposit, because sometimes I get the feeling people are not aware of the obligation they have.
Matilda, I can't really answer that for you. When I was attending the legal deposit committees, and like I said, that's more than 10 years ago, when I was involved with the legal deposit committee or the subcommittees, I can't say that they were involved, the MECs of the different provinces was involved. We can maybe make a note, because my manager is involved with the legal deposit committee. I can maybe make a note and ask her that she can mention it on the committee, and maybe they can, in that case, they can draw in the MECs of the different provinces.
I think also in with regard of that, I know, and that's also now before COVID, the National Library usually comes to Bloemfontein. I know I was at 1 or 2 meetings where they also invite people that can be part of this whole copyright legal deposit, and they also stated very urgently that all the provincial government departments should send their, like for instance, their annual reports. So there is some that the rest of the people became also aware, but I know from those meetings that they always complain that not everybody is doing that. We have a next question here on the chat box. I will be with you now, Elma. Lauren Rashby said, I'd like to know how you check that you receive all official publications.
Okay, lady who's working with the reminders is also working with the official publications, and on our OPAC, we are working with the RP of the PR number. So we can only, if we receive it, we can work on the RP of the PR numbers and follow up if we did receive the correct numbers or the previous numbers. If it's a publication published by the government and they don't send it to us, it will be with the working, maybe she will go on the internet searching for a name change or something like that, then she can become aware of that publication. But otherwise, if they don't send it to us, we won't know unless we've got it and we can see we didn't receive back copies, then we will ask for the back copies.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. How do you know which RPs and PRs you should receive? Do you get a list from the government printer?
Sometimes I do get a list from the government printer, but I'm not sure exactly when they do receive that.
Okay, thank you. Because I've at University of Cape Town libraries, and I deal with government publications. And recently, I got asked a particular department for some publications, and they sent us not just 1 or 2 copies, but looked like they emptied out the storeroom and sent us masses of copies of 7 titles, and 6 of them weren't in any other libraries. And I'm really struggling to get the National Library in Cape Town just to receive these things and send them on to the other legal deposit libraries, because they obviously hadn't distributed them.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Then thanks, Lauren. Lorraine, then Alma, we can hear you now.
Thank you so much. I just want to find out, in connection with the Bloomnies, I had, okay, that was a personal request from somebody in Nelspruit in connection with a court case that was under the classified adverts in a specific Bloomnies. So that person first phoned Volksblad, and Volksblad told them that they do not print the Bloomnies anymore. So the court needed that printed copy. But if you see, they are all being delivered to the houses or in front of specific shops. You get the printed bloomnies. So what do I do if you need a printed copy?
If you say printed copy, do you need the hard copy or do you only need information on that specific case? Because if you need information on a specific case, we can make a copy for you and send it to you via email.
Yeah, I'm subscribed to News 24, so I could also make a copy from that, but they need the hard copy of the whole paper, of the whole bloomnies.
That will be difficult at this stage. When I started again last year, I'm trying to keep a copy for the legal opposite library that can be accessed by the public in our reference section. And when, like you say, it's delivered at home, so I'm bringing my one from home and I'm keeping it in my office. So if it falls in that period that we still got extra copies, we can give it to you. But afterwards, we only keep the one copy, we bind it and we put it in the basements. We don't have extra copies. Then we can take a photo of that specific one and then send that. Is it in this year that you're looking for the copy?
Yes, it was about a month ago that I get the request, and the bloomnies, and they also could not give me a date of the bloomnies, but when I searched on the bloomnies, I got it 2 weeks back.
Okay.
So, but what I was doing, I went to a specific Facebook page, Living in Palliser, and I did a request there if somebody maybe have that. So it was about 2 minutes after that, I received something from a lady that say hers is just lying in front of the machine that she want to destroy it. I can have her. So I managed to get it. But for further notice,
if what I can just say, if it's in, say, like this year, 2023, I try to keep extra copies in case our other copy or is missing. So you can maybe email me and I can just check if I've got extra copies and then I can send it to you. As long as my legal opposite set is complete, I can do with the extra copies. I can all send them to you if you need them. You can get my
that's
email
great.
address. Yeah, you can get my email address from Erna Mostert.
Yes, that's great to know. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, then we have another question from Matilda. Maybe this is a duplicate question. What do you do with books that are now only published electronically?
Those books are also kept by the electronic version is also kept by the National Library of South Africa. When they send it to us via email, then we just forward it to the National Library of South Africa.
Okay, does that answer you, Matilda?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I just wanted to know, is there a plan for electronic information as we are moving much more towards the electronic version of stuff? And then I'm sure that might also help with the storage problem, because I'm not exactly sure how do you store now the electronic version, but I'm sure, or I hope it will help with the storage problem.
Yes, thank you. It does help.
Okay, at the moment, I don't see anything else, but from my side, Marina, I would also like to know, say for instance, here with my library, I compile what I call a reading list once a term. And in that reading list, I put in the articles that I've seen during the previous term in different magazines that I thought, okay, my users, that's now the education people, will be interested in. So that publication is actually kind of an in-house thing. Do you also want to have that for legal deposit? If so, and that's coming to my next question as well. Must it be sent to all 7 of the legal deposit libraries, or only to you, since you are here with me in Bloemfontein?
What kind of list are you talking about?
It's
Just
just
want to
a
see-
it's just a A4
Mhm.
paper that I filled in 2, so it's very much informal, and it just states, say for instance, there's an article on school safety, and I've seen, and I put in the reading list, I put the title of the article and in which news, what do you call it, magazine I found it. So then if somebody somewhere in the department says, oh yes, I want information on school safety, here's an article that looks interesting, he can call me or send me an email and I can make a copy of that specific article. So it's just an awareness kind of publication. It's not a very official one.
I can't say about the other legal deposit libraries, but because it is in Bloemfontein, we can keep it. We don't have a problem, and we would like to keep these kind of things then for future use, if they can. But because it's Free State, then we can keep it. But the other legal deposit libraries, you can send it to them, and then they can decide on themselves if they can keep it, or if we've got it, if they still want it.
Okay, sending to them, can we send it electronically? Because I mean, these days with the mail,
Yeah.
it's not very trustworthy.
We would like the hard copy. In our case, I don't know in their case, we would like hard copy. But if it's Free State, I've made the decision like Free State, Provincial Gazette. We don't really receive all the 10 bulletin. We've got problems to receive them. So what we do, then I go on the website and I print copies because we would like to keep it printed copies. If it's not printed copies, only electronically, then you can send it to the national libraries. Otherwise, you can just ask them if you can send it electronically for them.
Okay, thank you. And then with that, regarding it's linking with that, anybody else, if there's something that must be sent for the copy, for the legal deposit libraries, say for instance, I'm a publisher and I've published this book. Must it be sent to all the legal deposit libraries?
Yes, all 5, and you must send it to all 7. You must send it to Cape Town and one to Pretoria and one to Mzuduzi, not all of them to Cape Town, then they don't have the all of that to us, so we can't distribute it, so everyone must get their own copy.
Okay, so that's also good, because I was wondering, because you said actually the National Library is seen as one, but it's 2 different campuses, so it must be going to 2 different campuses. Okay, thank you for that. Then this is really, Hans, please, you can talk now.
Good morning, colleagues. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, you can go on.
Yes, thanks very much, Namaste, for your presentation. We are very happy that, in the manner that you are dealing with your legal deposit in Mangaung. Just a point of interest, just want to know, we here in NLSA, we're dealing with GREP projects, GREP 103 project. Has Mangaung done that? Have you already done it in Mangaung, the GREP 103 project? And if you have done so, what were the challenges that you encountered?
We started to investigate the GREP, but we are not completely on GREP. I know the National Library of South Africa, they are the forerunners, I almost want to say, of GREP. So we started. The challenges that we started to experience is like prices, where the books, if they don't have prices, we must get, I almost want to say, quotations, maybe 3 different quotations, and get them one price, and then we must keep this information in the books. But because the book is available for the public, we still need to find out, the public can take out the paper if we indicate where we got it, they can take the paper out, and then we lost those information. So we are still working some of the challenges out to see where we can go with them.
Thank you for your answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then we have here a comment from NLSA 0040. Electronic books and serials can be emailed to legaldeposit@nlsa.ac.za. So you can also check in your chat boxes to see the exact email address. As far as I can see, there's one hand left, and Matilda.
I just want to find out, not all of us are so clued up with all the acronyms. What does GRAP stand for? And my other question is, why do maybe I'm misunderstanding something, but why is Mangaung Public Library still so much in favor of having a paper copy and not having electronic copies of publications?
I have to tell you, I don't really know what GRAP stands for. Maybe one of the colleagues can just indicate to us. We only, if it's because we must keep the publications, if it's printed copy also available electronically as well as printing, then we can keep the printing copy and we want to keep the printing copy. It's only if it's not available on printing and only electronically that we don't keep the printing copy, or there's nothing available. But if it's, we ask the publisher, if they say to us it's available electronically, then we ask if there's a printed copy. If they say yes, we request the printing copy. It's just to make it, because it's part of our duty to preserve whatever we can preserve. I can't remember what the GRAP stands for, but if somebody else maybe can just indicate to us.
Okay, while we're waiting for the definition there, I was just wondering, in this day and age of everything that's going electronic, do you think there will be perhaps in the future moving away from keeping things, specifically in light of the storage space that it takes up?
It's waar ek het daar ek het gesit ook. O, okay. Nee, dis okay. Get it in.
If we did, or we're also looking into scan copies, but if it's printing of printed copies, we like to keep the printed copies. What we will do is, because at this stage, if it's a printed copy, you must leave space open for the rest of the copies to keep together. But if it's, if we are moving to the other, maybe electronically, but then we're going to do scanned copies and then make it available to the public. Electronically, like I said, if we get a printing copy, we would like to preserve the printing copy, but we will scan it and make it available to the public, but then there's a lot of copyright also involved, so there's a lot of things that must be sorted out before we can do that.
Okay, here is now coming in the definitions of this acronym. One says, let me just make it from the top, generally recognized accounting practice. And then some question, what is GRAB South Africa? Introduction standards of generally recognized accounting practice issued by the Accounting Standards Board and IFRS principles are a comprehensive reporting framework that is compulsory for the South African public sector. Okay, now I'm also learning something.
Thank you.
Any more questions? I don't see any hands here. Let me just go to the second page on my screen. I don't see any hands here. Miss anything in the box? Matilda, will you help me see, please? Okay, yes, another question from Laureen. Will NLSA establish a national archive for electronic publications? Marina, if you can't answer, we can ask the colleagues of the National Library.
Yeah, I think I must answer that one. I don't know about that one.
Okay, anybody from the NLSA that is attending, can you perhaps answer this question? I don't have the names, I just see it is 831 and there's a 0040 and a 0122 from the NLSA. Nobody with an answer for us? We'll try to ask them, National Library, if they can answer us, and then we, oh, here is something coming in. Yeah, they say it's not sure yet. Okay, so it's still under their investigation. Okay, any more? Nothing more? Matilda, I don't know if you want to say something, or can I just end off this discussion, then I give over to you.
Arna, you can just finish your session, and then I just want to have a word quickly. Thank you.
Okay. Marina, from my side and from the rest of LISLIG side and all the attendees, thank you very much for your effort to come to us today and talk about this. There's really a lot of stuff that we know somewhere there's something about legal deposit, but we don't know all the details. And actually we are all supposed to know what you're talking about. So thank you very much for that. I have here at the back a small token to thank you for your presentation. I just want to take it now because it's going to make a lot of noise here on the line. So I'll give it for you just afterwards. Oh, sorry, I'm going to interrupt myself. There's another comment here in the chat box from NLSA 0040. Sorry, just the question to NLSA, we missed the question. The question was, will NLSA establish a national archive for electronic publications?
Hi, sorry here. It's Didi here. Y'all sorry about the question.
No problem, thanks.
There was some distraction here. What we do, I'm working with the electronic books that we are receiving. So what we do now is when we receive it, we catalog it on our system, and then we save it on our server for now. Because we don't have, we're still busy with a policy and agreement with the publishers if we can open it to everyone or must it be closed. So now for our archives, we just archived it on our server.
Okay, thank you very much.
I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, I think so. I hope, Laureen, you're satisfied? That can also be a problem now, because if it's open, then anybody can use it. And there's some other technical things that's coming in as well.
Yeah, that is how come it's closed for now. We don't open it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Zweli, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just want to add to what my colleague has said. We are looking in terms of the copyright, so we have to scrutinize every angle in order to have these things access. So you cannot just naively, impose these things. We need to go all the way to make sure that no one will be disadvantaged. I mean, the publisher on the other side. There must be, that agreement. Every angle must be covered. So the copyright is one part. What that must be explored together with other things that have to do with, access to those records, those electronic. I hope that I hope it adds to what my colleague has said.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much. Okay, Matilda, I'm finished, and here I'm giving over to you.
Marina, thank you very, very much for your preparation and your time and your presentation. We really appreciate the information you have shared with us. I'm sure between us, there were quite a few people who are knowledgeable about legal deposit, but a lot of us do not really know what are the obligations we have, how it works, where are the different legal deposit libraries all over the country. So I really would like to thank you for everything you have shared with us. Then
Thanks,
just
Matilda.
Just a remark here from the side. A lot of you should have seen Erna's email with regards to copyright. So all of you who have an interest in copyright, if my information is not wrong. There's currently public hearings right through the country with regards to copyright. My take on it is this is a bill that needs to be approved by different provinces. So if you would like to make an input, please contact your provincial legislature, their committee section or their switchboard, and ask them when will the public hearings on copyright take place, and please make an effort that you do attend such a meeting to give your inputs. I would like to thank everyone who attended the meeting. It was very nice having you with us. Arna, do you want to make a comment from your side?
No, thanks, Matilda, I'm fine.
Therefore, I think we can now close the meeting. May all of you have a blessed day and enjoy the public holiday lying ahead of us tomorrow.